What's up, nerds? Knights of the Old Republic, or KOTOR for short, is one of my favorite games of all time. A major contributing factor to my undying love of this masterpiece is the ability to play as a Jedi Knight. I mean, come on, you get a set of swanky robes, a ton of force powers, your own customizable lightsaber, and the ultimate choice to follow the teachings of the Jedi or become a Sith Lord. Whichever path you choose, any first playthrough of KOTOR is sure to be a blast. It's on subsequent playthroughs, though, that playing as a Jedi starts to feel a little easy. Jedi robes unlock some of the most overpowered force abilities in the game, lightsabers do outrageous amounts of damage, and having a party full of Jedi can trivialize most enemy encounters. I mean, heck, I recently beat KOTOR as a lone Jedi character who used blasters. Really, just about any well-built Jedi character can absolutely wreck this game. This, of course, made me wonder, what if your main character in KOTOR could never become a Jedi? If I had no access to Jedi robes, force powers, or lightsabers at all, could I still beat Knights of the Old Republic as a normal guy? To answer that, let's head to character creation. To start off, we are given a choice between three non-force user classes: the Soldier, the Scout, and the Scoundrel. Our choice in class will actually be quite important, seeing as the most difficult part of this run will be combating force user enemies without having the force ourselves. With this in mind, I choose the Soldier class. Not only do they have high HP and attack modifiers, soldiers get to choose a whopping 18 feats throughout a playthrough of KOTOR. Having a lot of options in a playthrough where our options are limited is super valuable. Our portrait doesn't matter at all though, so I just go with Ivan Drago. Moving on to our stats, we are going to be specializing in melee combat for this run, so we need a lot of strength and constitution. I also take a little bit of wisdom for saves, and a good bit of dexterity for armor class. I take the toughness feat for more HP per level, and finish my character by naming him the Grugler. Or Grug for short. I'm not brain rotted, you're brain rotted. Anyway, let's proceed to the beginning of the game. Our handsome caveman finds himself aboard a besieged battle cruiser called the Endar Spire. Before he can get his bearings, Grug is introduced to everyone's favorite eldritch horror, Trask Golgo.
You can move the mouse to the edges of the screen to rotate the cap.
Unfazed by Trask's ability to speak beyond reality, our hero collects his starting gear from a nearby chest. Grug may have no idea what's going on, but if there's a fight going on somewhere, he's more than happy to take part in it. This mindset leads him to his first combat encounter with a couple invading Sith troopers. It's not against the rules of this challenge for Trask to assist Grug, seeing as he isn't a Jedi or anything, but just know I plan to do the rest of this challenge without companions, because I like torturing myself. The first deck of the Endar Spire is no trouble at all, seeing as you literally cannot die here. Thank you for the 20 different comments on the first video telling me this. Not long after securing the first area, Trask goes to live on a butterfly farm, leaving Grug to fend for himself. Despite being mortal and alone on the second deck of the Endar Spire, our hero has no difficulty clearing the place out. As a reward for his efforts, our hero acquires the prototype Vibroblade, an old reliable for any early game melee build. Thankfully, it's not a lightsaber, so it's safe to use. Grug then escapes the Endar Spire with one of the game's companions, Carth Onasi. Their escape pod crash lands on the planet Terrace, putting our hero out of commission for a little bit. It's nothing a few dreamless days of sleep can't fix though. Upon regaining consciousness, Grug's new buddy Carth tries to explain their current predicament. Most of Carth's speech goes over our hero's head, but he does hear something about helping a nice lady named Bastila Shan. Carth promises that Bastila will give Grug chalky milk and tendies if he finds and saves her, so naturally our hero cannot refuse. Now venturing outside of the hideout, Carth and Grug discover a nice police officer and his pair of battle droids talking to the locals. Grug hates droids, so naturally he decides to blow them up with a frag grenade. Carth is disturbed by our hero's actions for some reason. He claims that randomly throwing grenades at people is wrong and dangerous. Grug counters this by mentioning how the word frag in frag grenade rhymes with Grug. This then prompts Carth to leave our hero's company forever. Oh well, Grug didn't need his help anyway. Our hero has a special method of working for missions like this by utilizing the simple process of elimination. Grug begins his search for Bastila.
Are you Bastila?
No.
Are you Bastila?
No.
Are you Bastila?
No. After such a long day of searching, our hero decides to call it for now and take a nap back home in an awesome new set of pajamas he found lying around. But on his way back to the hideout, Grug accidentally goes down the wrong elevator and ends up in Terrace's Undercity. For some reason, everyone in this place is angry at Grug. Since nobody here is nice enough to give our hero directions, he's not going to be home for a while. So to stay productive, Grug decides to resume his search for Bastila.
Are you Bastila?
No.
Are you Bastila?
No.
Are you Bastila?
Go away.
Alright, maybe this whole process of elimination thing wasn't going to work down here. Instead, our hero uses his words and discovers some nice people called the Hidden Becks. They say they know where Bastila is, but they can't help without Grug's new pajamas. It's with a heavy heart that our hero decides to give up his pajamas in exchange for some funny papers that'll help him find Bastila. Grug uses the aforementioned papers to reach the Terrace Undercity. Within said subterranean metropolis, our hero engages with some like-minded rapscallions. Good evening, my dearest friend. Might my compatriot and I trouble you for some currency, or I may be willing to part with a few shekels in exchange for pertinent information. A wonderful proposition. How might we assist? Might you gentlemen know the whereabouts of a certain Bastila Shan? Unfortunately, my friend, I do believe the individual you seek has been taken away from this accursed place. You had best try your luck outside of our fine town's gates. What wonderful insight. Thank you both for your time. Here are the promised shekels. Following the eruditious advice of his academic equals, our hero ventures outside of the lower city shantytown. There he finds another one of the game's potential companions in Mission Vale. She says she knows how to get to the place where Bastila is. It's called the Black Vulcar Base, and Mission is willing to help Grug get there. But in exchange, Grug has to fight some sewer piggies so Mission can save her Wookiee friend Zalbar. As an incentive, Mission donates her very own vibroblade to Grug's arsenal. Our hero does love violence and free weapons, so he's down for whatever. By once again using the all-important process of elimination, Grug is able to lure his enemies out one at a time and beat them in 1v1s. Whether it be droids, zombies, or sewer piggies, none of them stand a chance. Because of our hero's work, Mission is able to free her friend Zalbar. As thanks, she lives up to her end of the bargain and shows Grug the way to the Vulcar base. Grug happily makes his way further into the sewers to progress his search, but in doing so comes face to face with a gigantic Rancor. It's obvious that such an obstacle would require more than a simple sword fight to clear. It takes our hero a whole 3 minutes, but he's able to come up with a genius strategy for this insurmountable enemy. Rhymes with Grug. With that out of the way, our hero progresses to the Vulcar base proper. We've already established that Grug is stronger than crime, so moving through the base is quite easy. Upon clearing out the place, our hero discovers a final room with some dangerous meanies inside, one of whom is named Candon. Grug demands that he hand over Bastila, but Candon says he can't. Grug's princess is in another castle, and that can only mean one thing. The Hidden Becks lied to Grug. He's so mad he could cry. Candon is sympathetic to our hero's plight and offers to turn Bastila over to him for the small cost of eliminating all of the Hidden Becks. Grug was already going to teach those liars a lesson, so he's more than happy to take the deal. Returning to the Hidden Beck base, Grug enacts a historical massacre. All of the weaker gang members go down without much of a fight. However, the boss enemies are no pushovers. Obviously, we can't use the Force to make life easy, but we can use the next best thing: performance-enhancing drugs. By stacking buffs from every available stimulant type, Grug is able to rip through these bosses like cheap toilet paper. As promised for his monumental deed, Candon takes our hero to Bastila. Grug gets a little distracted by race cars that go vroom vroom, but when he's good and ready, he goes over to complete his mission. That is until Candon's boss, Brejik, says that Grug can't have Bastila. Grug asks why not, and Brejik says it's because Candon lied. Just as he's about to inflict righteous justice on those who wronged him, Bastila breaks free of her restraints on her own. This leads to Bastila and Grug teaming up to wipe out the lying scum together. After that deed is done, Bastila and Grug escape back to the hideout. It's at this point where our hero demands that he receive his duly earned chalky and tendies. Bastila has no idea what Grug is talking about, but after a hushed talk with Karth, she agrees to do what our hero asks. Our hero rushes outside of the hideout to go pick up some tendies. He doesn't get far though, as our hero is stopped by a messenger who tells him to go talk to someone named Canderous Ordo. Grug has been let down a lot recently, so he's unsure about doing anything for this coniferous floorbow person, but when the messenger says that Canderous has tendies, that's all our hero needed to hear. Upon arriving at the designated meeting place, Canderous introduces himself to Grug. He's a Mandalorian turned gang enforcer who works for the galactic crime lord Davik, but he doesn't want to work for Davik anymore because Davik's a big fat liar. Canderous just wants to cut his losses and leave Terrace altogether, but he needs Grug's help. Our hero is all for standing up against big fat liars, but he was promised tendies and he intends to get them.
¿Quieres?
After getting a taste of tendies, our hero makes his way to the local droid shop. There he picks up a droid that opens a door to the nearby Sith base. Within the base are some Sith launch codes that Canderous needs to leave Terrace. To get to the codes, our hero has to defeat all of the Sith residing in the base. This isn't much of a problem because we've established that Grug is stronger than the law. Upon entering the room with the codes, our hero is faced with his first Force user enemy. The Sith Governor is an extremely deadly foe that has a lot of health, deals a lot of damage, and can freeze your character in place with the Force. The Force power he uses to do this is called Force Stasis, which requires a character to succeed a Fortitude save to ignore. Thankfully, soldiers like Grug specialize in Fortitude saves. Combined with some gear and feats that increase our hero's Fortitude saves even further, he's able to completely resist the Governor's influence. With the help of performance-enhancing drugs and some out-of-turn healing, the law of the entire land falls to Grug. Now, with launch codes in hand, our hero returns to Canderous to commence the next stage of his plan, finding a ship. Canderous' ship of choice is called the Ebon Hawk, which currently belongs to Davik. Not for long, Grug says. Together, our hero and Canderous infiltrate Davik's mansion. Grug uses the ever-wonderful process of elimination to find where the Ebon Hawk's car keys are being hidden. He eventually finds them by some guy who was being tortured, probably because he was a liar. Our hero then takes these car keys to the mansion's hangar with Canderous, only to find that it's raining lasers outside for some reason. Davik and his employee of the month, Kalo Nord, are also in the hangar because they are planning to escape the laser rain via the Ebon Hawk. Davik and Kalo are both pretty high-level enemies with some serious firepower. What this battle requires is proper planning and well-thought-out tactics. Rhymes with Grug. This impromptu plan works perfectly and allows our hero to escape Terrace before the laser rain kills him. Bastila declares that the early game is now over and that it's time to progress to the mid-game, starting on Dantooine. Grug thinks that's a bit of a weird thing to say, but he doesn't question it. Upon arriving on Dantooine, Grug takes a walk around and buys himself a new belt with all of the money he pried from the cold dead hands of his enemies. Afterward, he takes a little visit to the aforementioned mid-game that Bastila was talking about. The mid-game turns out to be a bunch of old men who think Grug is Force sensitive. At this point in the story, your main character is discovered to be Force sensitive and is supposed to train to become a Jedi Padawan, but obviously we don't want that to happen for the purpose of this challenge. By installing a mod that I will link below, we can use a new dialogue option to skip becoming a Jedi completely and remain a soldier for the rest of the game. This won't stop the old men from keeping Grug on Dantooine though. Since the Jedi are all too lazy to do stuff on their own, they tell Grug to go deal with some evil hounds. Seeing as our hero has nothing better to do, he takes to the wilderness and gets into some fights. The evil hounds aren't super difficult to deal with per se, but they are a big drain on resources. Not only do they each have high HP, Grug's AC is really bad right now, so he's getting hit a lot. It costs our hero his entire inventory of healing supplies, but eventually, Grug is able to reduce the evil hound population to 0. Or so he thought, because it looks like he missed one.
I will be your doom!
It's not after the deed is done that Grug realizes the innocent person he just killed was a cat and not a hound. Oopsie poopsie. Surely the Jedi Council would understand an honest mistake when they saw one, and surprisingly they do. They're a little sad about our hero murdering someone like that, but they're the Jedi Council, they don't actually care. As a matter of fact, the Council sends out our totally trustworthy hero yet again to visit some spooky ruins. Bastila is also forced to be there, but for the sake of the challenge, we put the game in solo mode and ignore her. Grug thinks this assignment is dumb and boring at first, but upon seeing clankers inside, he springs into action. Grug's hatred of droids leads to him discovering a strange artifact called a star map that leads to something else called the Star Forge. Bastila says a bunch of big and complicated words to try and explain how the Star Forge works. To make things easier for Grug to understand though, she says that the Star Forge must be some kind of magic box that creates an infinite amount of toys for the Sith. Grug loves toys and he wants an infinite amount of them. Our hero swiftly returns to the Jedi Council, tells them that he's gonna go find the funny toy making machine, and then rushes to his ship to begin the search. The first thing our hero does is visit the Yavin 4 space station and make some deals with the merchant Suvam Tam. This playthrough will heavily depend on Suvam, not only because of his high sell rate on all goods, but because he sells some of the best items a non-Force user can buy. He doesn't have these goods just yet, so Grug settles for selling all of his junk for now. Taking his newly acquired money, our hero returns to Dantooine to buy a new melee weapon. Sansiki's blade isn't all that special per se, but it is a raw damage upgrade over Mission's vibroblade, blade, so we're gonna take it. We also buy a new armor set for a decent boost to our armor class. The most important thing we buy though is the stabilizer mask from a merchant on Manon. Not only does this mask give us a bonus to all of our saves, it gives us a permanent immunity to about 75% of all force powers in this game, which is absolutely gigantic for us. With this new gear equipped, Grug is more than prepared to begin his search for the star maps in the Star Forge, starting with Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk is a dangerous place. There's spooky spiders, feral wolves, and worst of all, corpos. Grug notices that these corpos are being extremely mean to the local Wookiee population, and this gets him mad. Our hero may be a little stupid, but he ain't no corpo sympathizer. He makes it his mission to violently remove any corpos he finds on his journey. Moving further through the jungle canopy, sees our hero come into conflict with the only 3 force users on this planet. Grug's previous preparations pay off, and none of their force powers affect him at all. They fall in short order to our hero's new blade. Finally, moving on to this planet's main story, our hero visits a local Wookiee village and is introduced to Zalbar's brother, Chundar. He's siding with the Corpos because he wants to put his small town on the map, which goes against the morals and traditions set by he and Zalbar's dad, Freyr. To restore this Wookiee village's soul, our hero makes it his mission to not only oppose corpo assimilation, but return Freyr to power so the village can remain independent. Beginning his search on the forest floor, our hero is briefly interrupted by Kalo Nord. It seems he's really trying to keep up his Employee of the Month streak despite his employer being dead. Finally, Grug thinks, there's someone on this planet dumber than me. By making use of cover, Grug's perfect process of elimination wins the day yet again. Diving further into the underbrush, our hero meets a new companion in the form of Jolee Bindo, an old Jedi living in exile. At first, he seems like a pretty fun guy. He kills evil beasts and tells funny jokes. Both things Grug can respect, but he is a former Jedi after all, so he's bound to have some chores for our hero to do. This is a fun chore though, as Jolee tells Grug to remove some corpos from the local area. Jolee never told our hero how he should do it, so naturally they are all made into fertilizer for the trees. Jolee's a little upset by this, but ultimately he decides not to care and joins up with our hero anyway. With his help, Grug is able to move further into the forest and find where Freyr is hiding. Freyr lashes out at our hero in a paranoid outburst, but Grug doesn't mind. If anything, our hero can appreciate a fella who's always looking to spar. On the matter of restoring Freyr to power, the former Chief Tain asks Grug to retrieve a certain sword that's stuck in the hide of a local Tarentatech. Our hero can't even pronounce the word Tantero Dex, but he's more than happy to go fight the thing anyway. All it takes to find the terrible Ben Affleck is luring it out with an animal carcass. This turns out to be one of Grug's most annoying fights thus far. Every time our hero takes a swing at the 10-foot-tall Shrek, it throws him backwards. This doesn't do a lot of damage really, but it does make the fight longer than it needs to be. Eventually, Grug puts in a few good hits of his own, and the Tetratonic Cyberdeck falls. With Freyr's special blade in tow, our hero makes the trek back to him. He takes a wrong turn though and ends up in front of a talking computer. That's close enough to a droid in our hero's book, so he threatens to scrap the thing for parts if it doesn't shut up. For some reason the computer is into this and it decides to give our hero a star map. Oh yeah, Grug kind of forgot about those. But hey, one more star map on the board is never a bad thing. Actually returning to Freyr now, our hero bestows the special sword. Freyr goes to free his people and Grug follows him. Grug fights some traitor Wookiees because he is stronger than corpo assimilation and then meets with Freyr and Zalbar back at the village to defeat Chundar once and for all. The result of this battle gives our hero Baka's ceremonial blade. It's a meaty melee weapon that's even better than Sansiki's blade, making it a more than suitable replacement for our old prototype vibroblade. Kashyyyk as a whole wasn't too hard, yet at the same time I couldn't help but notice a few things about this run. Grug's damage is fine enough, but even at this stage of the game, he is getting hit by pretty much every enemy. In a normal playthrough where you play as a Jedi, your player character has a much higher average armor class from force powers and class feats. Meanwhile, Grug's armor class will always mirror his armor's stats, and frankly that's not high enough. So instead of focusing on trying to stack armor class, we have to focus on mitigating damage. This is why Grug will be utilizing the armor of Kalo Nord. This armor set not only provides the same immunity to force powers that our mask does, but an immunity to all critical hits. This may seem like it's not a big deal, but trust me, being able to take only 50 damage instead of 100 is very relevant. To further empower our new build ideas, Grug takes a quick visit to Korriban to buy himself a Sith regenerator implant. This does exactly what you'd expect and regenerates 2 health every 2 seconds. Now feeling fully confident in his fighting ability, our hero renews his search for the infinite toy machine on Manon. Manon is a rather civil planet with lots of laws and regulations and security. It's all very boring to Grug. Naturally, to find something interesting to do, he visits the nearest Republic military base, and boy oh boy do they have something fun for him to do. The leader of the base, Roland Wan, has been looking for a big strong soldier boy to go mess up some meanie Sith and find a broken droid. Grug did join the military to legally get into fights, so it doesn't take much convincing for him to do the job. Infiltrating the Sith base is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Our hero takes an automated shuttle inside and bulldozes his way through all the enemies he can. None of the normal guys stand much of a chance against the power of Grug, but there are a ton of Force user enemies in here. These guys are the perfect test for our hero's newly acquired might and tanking ability. Just as planned, none of them are able to put a dent in Grug's armor. That is, until our hero goes up against the Dark Jedi Master. This enemy packs one of the very few Force abilities that a normal person will never be immune to, and that is Force Kill. Not only is this a complete stun ability, it does as the name implies and kills targets very quickly with high damage. In a straight-on fight, Grug loses, but the solution to winning is rather simple. More performance-enhancing drugs. From there, the rest of the base is a total breeze. Grug rips through the final few rooms, acquires what he was sent to find, and dismisses himself from the Sith base. Upon leaving though, he is arrested by local authorities. They grill our hero at trial, calling all of what he did at the Sith base wrong and murder. To counter this, of course, our hero reminds the court that the word vibro in vibroblade rhymes with Grug. Grug is let free due to his obvious insanity. Returning to the Republic base now, our hero returns the remains of the droid he found. Roland Wan thanks our hero and asks if he can do one more little thing for the Republic. There's an underwater science facility that the Republic lost contact with a long time ago that needs investigating. Obviously science doesn't interest Grug, so Roland mentions that there are big awesome sharks underwater, which definitely gets him interested. By traveling to the facility in a submarine, our hero gets to see the aforementioned awesome sharks, but they're outside in the water and that's no good. So to go meet the big cool sharks in their natural habitat, our hero roots around the rundown science facility for a scuba suit. He has to survive waves of droids and mean fishies to find one, but it's well worth it. Grug even finds a super cool device that lets him speak with the sharks. For some reason it makes them really sleepy after he uses it, but that's okay. Sharks are so silly. After all the sharks take their nap time, Grug goes back inside to the science facility for a little break. Within this part of the facility are a bunch of scientists who are acting hysterical for no reason at all. They go on and on about how there's cannibalistic fish zombies and a gigantic grandfather shark swimming around outside. Grug didn't know about the gigantic shark, and he says he wants to go be its friend. Apparently this was not the right thing to say to a bunch of traumatized people with a newly developed shark phobia. Oh well. Anyway, Grug goes out into the water again and says hello to the big shark friend.
Greetings, Grugler.
OMG, hi. You're so awesome, Mr. Shark, sir.
Of course I am. I am a shark.
Do you have any wisdom to grant me, O TC1?
Keep it real. Never give up. And eat people who annoy you. Farewell.
Through our hero's unexplainable ability to communicate with cool animals, he's able to convince the big shark to go home and reveal the location of yet another star map. Grug returns to the surface as quickly as he can to tell all of his friends about the talking shark. Once again though, he's arrested by local authorities and asked to explain himself. Our hero tells everyone in the courtroom how he magically talked to a giant fishy on the seafloor using the power of friendship. Once again, he is dismissed from court for being insane. With 3 star maps now in his possession, Grug returns to Suvam Tam to get some new upgrades. Upon entering the station, our hero witnesses his poor merchant friend getting hassled by a bunch of Trandoshan bounty hunters. Using the sage teachings of the big shark, Grug wards off these bottom feeders by threatening to consume them one crunchy little scale at a time. This shark speak works wonders and makes the meanies leave. Now with them out of the way, Grug can purchase Suvam Tam's new inventory of items. If you've played KOTOR before, then you probably know exactly where this is going. The Baragwin Blade. is a weapon that I like to call a mid-development crisis. The Baragwin blade, when fully upgraded, does 6 to 36 damage of varying types, has a +5 hit chance, and a 15% chance to crit. To say that this weapon can compete with lightsabers is an understatement, but that's not all that Grug purchases. He also gets the advanced biostabilizer mask, which provides an immunity to all poison attacks. Not only is this useful for eliminating poison damage, it'll also completely cancel out force powers that rely on poison status, like Force Plague. Very nice. Continuing on his journey, our hero lands on Tatooine. It's pretty barren out on a desert planet, as one would expect. The town doesn't have a lot going on that Grug is interested in, at least until he enters the local droid shop. Within, he finds a rather sarcastic and cocksure droid by the name of HK-47. It thinks it's so great, so advanced. HK claims to be an assassin droid who specializes in target elimination. Grug eliminates people all the time. HK also says it's programmed to know a million bajillion languages. Grug can talk to sharks. HK says it's programmed to talk to sand people. Grug admittedly doesn't know how to do that, but that doesn't mean he can't learn. To prove himself superior to the rust of metal, Grug hustles out into the wastes of Tatooine to find some sand people to talk to. I mean, it couldn't be that hard to engage in dialogue with them, right? Every sand person Grug meets is mean and antisocial, but this is okay. Grug can still do this. All he needed to do was blend in a little bit. Then maybe the Sand People would calm down. Our hero strolls his way into the Sand People's main base of operations, and he's immediately discovered and attacked on sight. It's in this moment that Grug realizes something. If there are no more Sand People on Tatooine, then HK-47 won't be able to talk to them, meaning his stupid programming isn't special anymore. Genius, Grug exclaims as he kills a family of 3. The process of elimination spares no one. Not the men, not the women, and not the chieftain of the tribe. On the body of said chieftain, Grug finds a cool treasure map. Grug likes treasure, so he goes to follow it. The map leads to a giant cave in the middle of the desert with a big old dinosaur in it. Our hero loves big dinosaurs just as much as he loves giant sharks. Just as Grug's about to go have a chat with the thing, the poor dino decides to walk out of its cave into a surprise minefield. Tragically, the beast is killed by these explosives, but not before parting one final message.
Avenge me.
Nearby just so happens to be the game hunter responsible for the killing of the dinosaur. Grug wastes no time at all fulfilling the dying wish of his giant dino friend. Rest in peace, you glorious creature. Moving on to claim the inheritance of his very close friend, the dinosaur, our hero discovers a star map. Clearly the dinosaur wanted Grug to have it, so he humbly accepts this posthumous gift. Upon attempting to exit the cave, though, some estate planners block our hero's path and try to explain that the star map was meant for the dino's son-in-law. Grug may be stupid, but he isn't dumb enough to trust the words of a lawyer. He very quickly dispatches these hoaxers and moves on with his day. Our hero returns to his ship and punches a course for his final destination, Korriban. However, before he can reach the planet, a gigantic Sith warship called the Leviathan snags the Ebon Hawk out of hyperspace. For the first time in this playthrough, our hero trembles with fear. Karth asks what's gotten into Grug. These people are clearly the IRS, our hero says, and they must be out for revenge after what I did to those lawyers. This exchange reminds Karth why he never wanted to talk to Grug again. Anyway, it's not long before our hero is taken into lawful custody and put into a holding cell. Grug begs for mercy in front of the interrogation officer, saying that he would do anything to avoid paying taxes this year. It's then that the interrogation officer informs our hero that he's not being audited by the IRS, he's actually going to be tortured within an inch of his life. Oh, thank goodness, Grug says. For a second there, he thought he was in trouble. After a few painful bouts of forced shock therapy from his captors, our hero is rescued by Mission Veo. Grug rearms himself, ignores Karth and Bastila, and then proceeds to go on a rampage around the Leviathan. Eventually, our hero breaks into the bridge of the vessel, where he engages in a pretty easy boss fight with a bunch of normal people. By taking out this non-force user boss, our hero can leave the Leviathan for good. Or that would be the case if Grug wasn't blocked from leaving by the big bad Lord of the Sith, Darth Malak. Darth Malak informs our hero that he's nobody important actually, and then squares up with him. You would think that fighting the most powerful force user in the galaxy would be a little difficult for Grug, but to be frank, this fight isn't hard at all. In fact, it's so easy that Bastila decides to sacrifice herself to make Malak feel better. With that baffling encounter out of the way, our hero can finally go to Korriban as he had planned. This red dust pile isn't the most accommodating place. There's murder on the streets, public torture, wanton mugging attempts, and worst of all, call a place of education? Just as Grug was about to put this planet in his blacklist, a solicitor approaches him about enrolling in the Sith Academy. They say that there are basically no rules there, and that killing people actually gives you good grades. You know what? Maybe it was finally time for our hero to get his degree. He attends a few lectures, does some extracurricular activities, makes lifelong friends, and connects with his professors. Through our hero's hard work and perseverance, he's able to fulfill all of the requirements for his degree in half an hour, which is pretty good for a private school. There's just one little final exam that Grug has to do if he wants to graduate in full. All that really requires is some animal cruelty and throwing a grenade. Our hero is granted his final star map and graduates from the Sith Academy with flying colors. Putting his new associate's degree in Sithology to use, Grug assumes a graduate professor role and teaches everyone at the Academy a lesson on the process of elimination. There were no survivors. Seeing as our hero is a genius without intellectual equal, he decides to take his learnings away from the neophytic minds of a mere academy and do some proper fieldwork. Returning to his buddy Suvam Tam's space station, Grug rips apart those mean lizards from earlier and gains access to yet another Baragwin assault blade. Without further ado, our hero finally punches in the coordinates for the Starforge system. Upon arriving there, the Ebon Hawk systems are fried by signals from a nearby planet, forcing the crew to make an emergency landing. Grug isn't going to let this slide. He steps outside and prepares to give this dumb planet a piece of his mind, but is interrupted by a bunch of sword-wielding aliens who want to eat his flesh. They're not a threat at all. Grug surmises that these aliens were probably the ones who knocked his ship out of space, so he decides to go give them a piece of his mind instead. Upon finding their base, Grug is taken to the tribe's leader, who is just as caveman-brained as our protagonist. "I say, sir, I am most displeased by the vandalization of my spacefaring vessel by your kind. I demand restitution immediately." "My dear friend, you are mistaken. For it is not we who have dared to slight you, but an odorous tribe of technophiles just to our south. If you were to defeat them, we might unravel their tangled web around this biosphere, allowing your escape." "Indeed. This is an agreeable arrangement. I shall go forthwith." And so out into the wilderness our hero goes. On his journey he slays some Rancor in head-on-head combat, wipes out an entire people for inconveniencing him slightly, and finds ship parts for the Ebon Hawk. In exchange for taking out those tech people, the caveman tribe gives our hero access to the nearby temple where the bad signals are coming from. Jolie comes to help our hero out, which will turn out to be a huge mistake on his part very soon. Anyway, Jolie is shoved in a corner and Grug stomps his way through the temple. There are no notable challenges here apart from the boss of this area, which is none other than Bastila Shan. She's turned to the dark side now, and has decided she wants to take our hero out. "For tendies and chalky milk?" Grug asks. "No, to the grave," Bastila replies, before getting two-shot. Understandably, this makes her reconsider a few things. Seeing as our mortal hero has proven to be more than a match for both Malak and Bastila, Bastila suggests that Grug usurp the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith. Grug may have a degree in Sithology, but he isn't even Force sensitive, so he thinks becoming Dark Lord of the Sith would be dumb. Being King of the Galaxy, though, would be pretty awesome. Jolie, however, does not think this idea is awesome. He claims that destroying democracy would lead to chaos and darkness. Our hero replies by saying that betrayal rhymes with Grug. After that outright murder, our hero returns to his ship to rally the troops of his new kingdom. It turns out Jolie was not alone in his treason, though. Karth straight out runs out on the group, and Mission gambles with her own life in a game of chicken. Unfortunately for Mission, our hero loves chicken. With only the most loyal and morally correct companions at his side now, Grug sets his sight on the object of his desire, the Starforge. Not only would his reign as Galactic Monarch begin with its capture, Grug hasn't forgotten about the infinite toys that the station can produce for his amusement. Upon landing on the Starforge, I noticed something that I've never had to take into account before. I've genuinely never done a dark side playthrough of KOTOR, so I didn't know Bastila was a required companion for the first few floors. If she casts even one force power, I have to reload my save, so to avoid this problem, I simply throw Bastila to the wolves and let her get knocked out. From there, Grug can solo or ignore all of the enemies in his way. After defeating Malak's new apprentices on the 3rd floor, Bastila finally detaches from the party, allowing our hero to face his greatest challenge yet. Darth Malak is back, and this time he isn't messing around. Okay, just kidding, he does mess around a little bit, but Grug skips that phase. Moving on to the real duel with Malik on the final floor of the Starforge, our hero buffs up as much as possible. Using personal shields, stimulants, power attacks, and med packs galore, our hero is able to defeat even the complete version of Malik in short order. However, this boss fight is not as simple as one would think. Each time you reduce Malik's HP low enough, he'll become untargetable and run off towards one of 8 captive Jedi pods in the room. Using their life essence, he'll regain all of his HP and force points, essentially resetting the boss fight each time he does this. Now, in a normal playthrough of KOTOR, there are many ways to counter this. You can use the light side of the Force to free the captive Jedi, or use dark side Force powers to take the life essence for yourself. But since our hero has no Force powers whatsoever, we have to beat Malik 8 more times. Oh boy, here we go. And thus, on the 9th attempt, Malik fell. As he gasped his last breaths, the Dark Lord asked, how? How could he have possibly been defeated by a nobody caveman with an associate's degree in Sithology? Our hero simply replied that the Force is stinky. It's with those asinine final words that Malik departs from the world of the living, and Grug takes up the mantle of King of the Galaxy and Haver of Infinite Toys. So yes, it is indeed possible to beat KOTOR as a normal guy. This was a pretty fun run overall. If y'all enjoyed Grug's rise to power, consider leaving a like, as it'll really help my channel grow. If you want to tune into more content like this, feel free to subscribe, and if you want even deeper involvement in my future projects, consider becoming a channel member. But yeah, thank you all again for watching, and see you in the next one.